Rodgers take.
I love it. Stay tuned. Rodgers' reaction. Jets' Woody Johnson said firing Saleh was my decision and mine alone. And just to back that up, Rodgers went on McAfee today and addressed the idea that he played a role in Saleh's exit, saying that he resented those accusations because they're patently false. It's interesting the amount of power that people think I have, which I don't. Greg, your reaction to Rodgers' latest remarks?
Look, I just don't believe him.
Oh.
It's just, I mean, this may be shocking to a lot of people. But here's the deal. Like before the season started, Aaron Rodgers, he absolutely knew the responsibility that was on him. Not just from bringing in Hackett, bringing in, obviously, the receiver, I'm drawing a blank. Alan Lazard and all the other guys.
Randall, Cobb, Boyle. Yeah.
But his inability to perform at the highest level. He said in May, and I don't know if we have the slot, but if we do, we can play it, we can listen to it, and you can hear him say it himself. Let's take a listen to this then.
Okay.
You said earlier there's pressure on all of us.
All of us, yeah.
Why do you say there's pressure on you?
Well, I think if I don't do what I know I'm capable of doing, we're all probably going to be out of here.
That's the reality that we're living in right now if you're the New York Jets. He hasn't played to his capability, his standard, and so thus the coach is getting fired. Now, you guys used the full screen earlier in the A block.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. And I looked at this, and I'm like, what? When you look at these numbers, the record, the points per game, total yards, all that, almost the same. When you look at that, what is the common denominator in that? The offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett.
Yes.
And so when you look, Aaron Rodgers wasn't there last year.
Correct.
That was Zach Wilson. Well, you then add Aaron Rodgers and you automatically assume, well we're going to be better. Well, he hasn't been better, so then somebody has to be blamed. The defense hasn't been as good, but they've been good enough. Mm-hmm. So the blame goes on the head coach. I get that. You can't argue that he's probably prior to this season could have been fired. But you give him grace because of that man, because you thought he was going to be better. And now he's not. Nathaniel Hackett is sitting in his office seat, sitting like, oh, I'm good. As long as Aaron's here, I'm clearly going to be fine. Because in that interview, he then goes to say, when he was asked about Hackett, oh, everything with Hackett is great. Our relationship is always going to be fine. It's going to always be great. Yeah, that's what we're seeing.
So here's the thing, because I find it beyond believability that Aaron Rodgers was blindsided by this. Am I convinced he called Woody and said fire him? No. In fact, do I even think that's the most likely of the outcomes? No. But do I think his answer was disingenuous from the most disingenuous athlete of my lifetime? Yes, I do. Do I think that he had an idea this was coming before Bob Saleh had an idea it was coming? Yeah, I do. I also think that because we're in the moment of the news cycle, we almost haven't paused to realize on this very show, 2 weeks ago today, that one of our lead stories was the Jets learning to deal with prosperity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Jets, Aaron talking about, it's, first you learn to win, then you figure out how to dominate.
Oh, yeah.
And that is... listen, we've thrown stones, I think, fair at Saleh's coaching ability, at Rodgers, a bunch of stuff. But that is from an organization that can cycle through these types of coaches and quarterbacks and just never be in it, and can go 2 weeks from the face of the franchise saying we're learning to dominate to the house is on fire. That starts with ownership. And from the top down, where it's just, people ask all summer, they were like, why won't you believe in the Jets? The version is, because they're the Jets. Why don't you believe in the Browns? Because they're the Browns. And so you might have a single glimmer or a moment, but it won't ever be sustainable because everything is poorly run. And to go that extreme in 2 weeks, Brew, is is unprecedented.
Well, and look, the ownership is bad. Let's just call it what it is. Woody Johnson, and the fact that he has turned the franchise over to Aaron Rodgers is a sign of how bad it is. Look, obviously you're not used to winning. He's an all-time great. You're going to let him do some things. But Hackett is terrible. Head coach.
Alone. Doth protest too much, Mr. Johnson. Rodgers was on McAfee and addressed the idea that he played a role in Saleh's exit, saying, I resent any of those accusations because they're patently false. It's interesting the amount of power that people think I have, which I don't. Brew, your reaction.
First of all, I got to say, I love the way Aaron Rodgers set that quote up. With I'm close with his family, and maybe he is, but I throw the football with his son.
Name-checked one of his kids.
It made you feel like, how? He couldn't have called the hit. He could not have called the hit. He's tight with, was it Adam, his son?
Yeah.
I think he said Adam. But look, I know this for a fact.
Okay.
And this means Aaron Rodgers is responsible. Had he played even mediocre football the last 2 weeks, Robert Saleh would still have a job.
Definitely.
They'd be at least 3-2, maybe 4-1, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
And Aaron almost acknowledged as much as that later when he was like, you take
nice
accountability if we play better this Sunday.
No question about it. But we also, look, I don't think Aaron Rodgers, as I said, ordered the hit. But I do think it stretches the bounds of common sense to think that the owner, Woody Johnson, would not have run this by Aaron Rodgers. And had Aaron Rodgers said, our defense, Woody, the defense is playing great. The offense has been the problem. I don't think I love Robert, as he's been saying, we don't need a coaching change. Woody Johnson doesn't pull the trigger if Rodgers says stop. So at the very least, I don't think he ordered it, but I think Johnson brought it up to him and he didn't stop it. Okay. All right. We also know this. When Aaron Rodgers said, I don't have the power, well, Nat Hackett, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, and Tim Boyle begged to differ. All right. You got them jobs with the Jets. And then finally, I hate to say it, but it's true. We know Aaron Rodgers isn't above lying publicly. We know it. It's a fact.
So
right.
So that's that's the most important piece here. Because for the record, I do not think it would have been Aaron Rodgers' responsibility if Woody Johnson said, I'm thinking Saleh, to say don't do it. Because I think that firing Saleh is probably the right decision. The reason I'm saying just probably, well, that's why I'm not. I was certain it would have been the right decision over the summer, or I mean over the offseason when you could have hired Mike Vrabel or a forward-thinking offensive coordinator or something like that. Because I'm not a solid guy when it comes to his coaching, head coaching ability. But I think it's probably the right idea that they needed to shake something up. And we already know Rodgers is untouchable, and we know Nat Hackett's unfireable. Now, maybe he can be deposed, but we know he's unfireable, and I don't think Davante Adams is going to wave a magic wand and save the day. But what Bruce said at the end matters. And this is why credibility and reputation matters. So I'll say something kind of personal about our group, and then I want to go through a list. Years ago, when we knew each other, but we weren't partners on TV yet, I don't even remember the exact specifics of it, but you said something on Undisputed, and Kevin Durant came out and said, Chris Broussard's lying. And I didn't reach out to Chris. I obviously don't know KD. And I went on First Things First the next morning and said, no, he's not. I said, I guarantee you what Brew said is accurate because Brew has a 50-year reputation publicly of being honest. And that was sorted out the way it was. Here's what Aaron Rodgers.
About me?
What?
Do you have a story about me?
I was just thinking.
We don't.
We don't. Here is what Aaron Rodgers, in the last 18 months.
We have a short show today.
Which is why I'm going to read them quickly.
Okay.
Has asked us to believe. And I'm going to leave out the most notorious lie because he thinks this lie is the reason everyone dislikes him. The first one at the press conference when we were all wearing masks. Let's pretend that one didn't happen. He told us he was 90% of the way retired before hanging out in a dark hole and some vision or something told him he's got to go play for the Jets. Believe me, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I'm telling you the truth. He told us, my phone doesn't work.